Okay, welcome to our third video when we're going to be looking at international trade. In the first two videos we've already discussed the absolute advantage and the comparative advantage to explain how countries might trade and how they might choose to buy from someone else. So we're now looking at balance of trade, and we start off here by looking at the circular flow of income, something we've discussed over many weeks, and I'm hopefully now you're very confident over most of it. We want to look now at the last area on the right hand side, and we're concentrating on the area abroad. So we're looking at the import expenditure being a withdrawal to the circular flow and the export expenditure being an injection. If we think about the term, the balance of payments, well, basically it's a record of the positives, the injections, and the negatives, the outgoings, the withdrawals of the country, and we know that money comes in through exports and that money goes out through the imports. So we know that we think about money coming in through the exports, it's leaving another country's circular flow to join ours, and equally money going out through the imports is leaving our circular flow to join another country's. So I think you can imagine that actually it's going to be in the country's interest that we have more money coming in than actually is going out. The thing is, the balance between the exports and the imports is our balance of trade. Sometimes it's referred to as the state of the economy. If we have a look at this balance of trade here, which is from 1955 to 2016, if you look on the left hand side relatively near the top, you'll see we have the zero, and when actually the graph goes above the zero it shows a positive balance of trade. If it's below the zero we have a negative balance of trade, where actually we're importing more than we're exporting. And I think you can see that generally the UK runs a negative balance of trade, so we import more than we export. So yes, so the imports are exceeding the exports, and the balance of trade is therefore not balanced. But the issue is the balance of trade must balance. We do have to balance the books somehow, and we have to think about actually how that can happen. So the difference is made up by borrowing money from abroad. So we have to do that to balance our trade and to sell assets abroad, and this actually results in the need for the higher interest rates, and that's something we've been discussing over the last couple of weeks. The problem is though, if we have this imbalance of trade, what it actually means is that there's too much money floating out, so the imports are higher than the exports. So we do actually have to make sure that we can grow this to make up the money in a similar fashion. So if we have a higher interest rates, it can actually dampen the growth, because what it does, it would discourage borrowing and investment, because if we have a higher interest rate it's then too expensive to borrow, and it's too expensive for businesses to actually then be borrowing money from the banks, for this investment to come. So alternatively though, it does actually encourage our savings, but it discourages spending in the economy. So these all actually contribute to the slowing down of the economy and making it much more difficult to grow. So two reasons why the imbalance of trade actually causes us problems is, firstly, is money's exiting the circular flow, and secondly, the higher interest rates acts as a dampener on growth. There is a policy implication to this, and one important role of the government is actually to look at how they can actually support exports, and it's really important for government to provide this support to encourage the value of the exports so that it can resolve some of the problems with the negative balance of trade. There's different ways of doing this. In the UK, in 1997, they formed another UK department called the UK Trade and Industry, and it was there to work with businesses based in the UK to assist in their success in international markets, and also to help with overseas investors who actually want to look at the UK as a place to invest in. So the UKTI, they look at things like the training, insurances, the exchange rates, the market intelligence and support, the research services, the potential sectors for other countries, and so much more. So the research services is something which is really important actually to provide that support for countries operating here. So they're very expert in their activities, and I think we all know that the more exporting we can do, the much better our balance of trade will be, because it means less money will be exiting from the economy and we can operate at a lower interest rates, and then the UK economy can grow. So the balance of trade is really important. It's this notion of balancing the exports and the imports more than just a circular flow of income. We really need the exports to be higher than the imports. It has this implication for the interest rates, and this can all compound the issues if we're actually running a negative balance of trade, and it could actually cause reasons for the government to intervene in the economy. How they intervene is often more of a political decision.